Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 28 of the Survival Project. Today's episode is a deeply moving conversation with Karin. Karin shares her experience of living with chronic Lyme disease, years of misdiagnosis, experience in neurological symptoms, medical gaslighting, and the fight to get life-saving treatment abroad after being ignored by her own country. From losing the ability to walk, to having seizures, to being told to simply get comfortable with a worsening condition, Karin's story is one of extraordinary resilience. So let's get into it. Karin, welcome to the Survival Project. I am delighted to have you here.
Thank you.
Uh,
Honored to be here.
Great stuff. Great to hear that. I suppose just to kick things off, would you like to dive into your story for us?
Yeah, so I basically have chronic Lyme disease, and the story goes back to when I was 8 years old. I'm 30 now. So it's a story of misdiagnosis and a lot of twists and turns. But basically, when I was 8, I started showing symptoms of headaches. I was going home from school a lot and things like that. And then when I was 14, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia in Crumlin. And my symptoms at the time were headaches, back pain. I used to faint a bit. And even my friends and I were talking the other day about this and saying, like, what 13, 14-year-old has a bad back? But anyway, right? It makes sense later on. And I kind of always had this feeling that there was something going on. There was something progressing in the background. But I was told that, right, it's fibromyalgia, it's a pain syndrome, and you need to manage it. And I did. I managed it as much as I could. And then when I was 25, I just started deteriorating really quick. So started lockdown, my symptoms just started getting completely exasperated. So it wasn't just headaches, back pain and fainting every so often. It became really neurological. I had a lot of vertigo, chronic migraines. I noticed things like my short-term memory slipping, or sometimes I'd be slurring my words, or I'd be trying to do something and my brain would be telling me to do it, but I couldn't physically do it. And I remember specifically one point, like the illness used to be so drastically up and down, still is, but I'm used to that now. And we were in Clare, we were at the Cliffs of Moher, and I tore up the top of the cliffs, no bother, great crack. And then coming down, what I now know as an episode started happening, where I was dragging my leg. I was telling myself to move faster, and it was like as if I was in slow motion. And then when I got to the bottom of the hill towards my family, I couldn't speak for some reason. I couldn't get the words out, and I could just feel the tears coming down my face, and I felt just completely hijacked and trapped in my own body. And basically that was the beginning of my motor skills being affected. Okay. So at that point, we tried to get me a better diagnosis. This wasn't explaining the neurological symptoms. And it took about a year for me to finally say, I'm going to send my bloods to Germany, because some nurses had said it to me in passing, not in a professional setting, in my personal life, had said, did you ever get tested for Lyme disease? Have you ever had a tick bite? And the truth is, I had dozens of tick bites because of where we live in near Kinmare in Kilgarvan, near the forestry. I had loads of tick bites growing up. We just didn't know they were dangerous, right? I went on my own accord and sent my bloods to Germany. And the doctors were kind of humming and hawing about it, saying, right, we'll look into more. I think it's more so something maybe like lupus, or it looks very neurodegenerative, even though those tests were coming back negative. So I had to get the bloods done myself, wait for the courier to come, send them to Germany. And then I got my results in an email, and I was teaching in a secondary school at the time. And I remember the email came in like 10 minutes before the end of class, and I was riddled in Lyme disease. Like every test was coming up. I had chronic immune suppression, and they tested one of my natural killer cells basically. And you're supposed to have between 100 and 360 of these natural killer cells, which are almost like soldiers. And mine was down to 7. So you can imagine an army of 7. No good. But even looking back at that now, it was so daunting that I had to, there was no sirens, there was no come into an office and we'll tell you about this diagnosis, this life-altering diagnosis, which I didn't know it was that at the time. I was actually delighted that I received this diagnosis. I remember coming home and telling my mom and my sister, and I was like, oh my God. And now I look back at that girl and I'm like, you poor creator what you had ahead of you, but still it was a diagnosis. And went to my GP about it and everything, and they were kind of, saying, oh, I don't think Lyme disease would do this to you. And in Ireland, the chronic Lyme disease is not accepted. So there's a gap, massive gap in the system, whereby if you get a tick bite and you have the bullseye rash, half the people don't get half the time. I didn't have a bullseye rash. You'll go to your doctor and they will give you 2 weeks of antibiotics, and that should clear the bacteria. And then also, as of only last year, they recognised that there's such thing as post-treatment Lyme disease, so that after Lyme disease treatment, you would have lingering symptoms. But there is no recognition for people that went years and years and years undiagnosed. And when somebody like me, at that age, at 25, who was bitten when I was 8, goes and gets a Irish Lyme disease test done, I don't show any antibodies to it because my immune system has been in suppression for so many years that I won't show, they say if you test too late, it won't show up. So they don't believe in it. They don't support it as such. So I was left pretty stranded, and they kept kind of pushing that, like, no, this is something neurodegenerative. We're just going to have to medicate you and see and get comfortable. But I found a consultant in Dublin, the only consultant in Ireland, and I did that treatment. It was 7 months of antibiotics. So it was 5 to 6 antibiotics a day for 7 months. But I was already really ill. And in hindsight, I was gone past the point of that being a success. So it actually just completely wiped me out. And I ended up at the end of that not being able to walk. I could only walk a few steps and my legs would buckle. And it wasn't that they would buckle because of weakness. I was weak, but it was like a delay in my motor skills. The messages just weren't going through. Some days I'd be like, whole day, I was holding a glass one day and I couldn't let go of the glass. I couldn't tell my hand to open to let go of the glass. So this is what was happening with my legs. So it was frightening, and I was also having seizures. Well, I don't know what word to put on them. I call them fits because they're not epileptic seizures. That was another thing that was thrown in there, that I might have epilepsy, but I don't. But I was having these fits whereby I was conscious, but my whole body would be tremoring and shaking, and I would completely lock up and excruciating pain, and I could be jerking and shaking for 20, 30 minutes and I couldn't speak. So I wouldn't be able to speak. My jaw would lock. It looked awful. It looked like I had a stroke half the time. And we were just left stranded. It was just like, well, that treatment in Dublin didn't work for you, and that consultant wasn't able to advise me on you should go abroad, or he couldn't stand over anything like that because the country is not accepting of this condition, or that it's a need that we have to go abroad. I'm sitting here today with the health that I have. Yeah, it's not great, but if I didn't pursue treatment abroad, which I went and did afterwards, my reality now would be unimaginable. They told me basically get comfortable not being able to walk much and having these episodes and in extreme nerve pain all the time. All I said during that period was, I just want to be sedated. Somebody sedate me, please. And because it was neurological, then you think of the motor skills, you think of the headaches, you think of the vertigo, but you don't realize that that also involves insomnia, anxiety, panic attacks, memory lapsing. Like, you're just going nuts, basically. So after that, we decided that we were going to try and look for treatment abroad. And I even know, looking back now, when I was saying it to the people that were that are close to me in my life, I'm going to get this treatment abroad, I'd say they were looking at me like I was mad, because, well, the doctors aren't advising that. And why do you mean you're leaving the country? But it was that level of desperation. And like, I wish I had ChatGPT back then, because there was no such thing. And I had to just do all the research myself. And because I wasn't sleeping, like, I'd sleep for maybe 20 minutes at a time, and then I'd just keep getting startled awake, jumping out of my skin. Night terrors, terrible. So I just did loads of research online, contacting people on Facebook from across the globe, asking them, where did you go? What did you do? And I found this treatment center, St. George's Clinic in Germany, and they did the most intensive style treatment for chronic Lyme disease. So then we had to go and set up a GoFundMe. which was terrifying in the mindset that I was in at the time. But I kind of see it as like almost a split personality. In one sense, I was this like anxious, paranoid, sick mess. And then in the other side, the other wave of it, I was fighting for my life. And I was like, I am not accepting this to just rot here at the age of 26. Um, so we went fundraising, and thankfully it was a huge success. Like, that's the beauty of living in a small Irish community. It was outstanding, overwhelming. That was 4 years ago. That was in 2022. I don't think I've acknowledged or like come to terms. I have acknowledged it, but I haven't come to terms with how amazing it was. It's like I almost can't fathom it, that people could be so helpful, but without them, it wouldn't have happened. We set off on my treatment anyway. March. So basically 4 years ago, March 2022, my boyfriend, who's now my husband, fair play to him, he, fair play to him for sticking through all of this. He brought me over to Germany. So he wheeled me over there. I was saying that Lou and Andy from Little Britain had nothing on us. Yeah, it was that, I look back now and say that was the scene going over to Germany. And it was also during COVID times, and we'd get a letter of saying that I needed life-saving treatment and everything. And I didn't even fathom that because my country weren't supporting it. So I still had this idea in my head of maybe I'm exaggerating it a bit. If you just calm down, maybe you'd be grand mid-seizure, But this was the like psychological damage that had been done of not being believed all your life. I didn't know any different. And obviously the Irishness in you as well to just toughen up. But when I got there, when I got to the treatment centre, that's when I realised like shit just got real, because there was this urgency. And I could sense it in all the consultants coming in to see me and everything. And they weren't saying much really about like my prognosis, but they did tell me at the end of that month-long treatment that if you had left it go any bit longer, this was March, if you left that go until the end of the summer, I don't think you'd have gone past the point of no return. You were so ill and there was so much damage being done. And the treatment was pretty intense. One treatment was plasmapheresis. So it was basically blood filtering. They placed a line in here by my collarbone and they filtered the blood for 5 hours, which I hated because I had such nerve pain and I hated sitting still and I wanted to be rocking and moving. And they were like, stop moving. So that was torture. And on top of that, then I had like really bad circulation. So they came into the room. That was another additive to my symptoms. And they had me flat on this bed. And they were like, right, we're going to insert the line right below your collarbone here. But your circulation's not good today. So we're just going to tilt the table, right? So your legs are up higher than your head for 10 minutes before we come into the room and do the needle. So I will never forget that moment of lying there, basically feeling like I'm upside down, going, right, I've 10 minutes now until they do this procedure. And then they came in and they inserted the line. And I also realized, tip for anybody else, that I had got the terms and conditions and there was an option of whether you want to be sedated or local anesthetic. And the option was local anesthetic, but you could ask to be actually sedated properly. And I was too terrified by the look of these terms and conditions. I just signed it and goes, yeah, grand. So the next day I had met an American girl in the clinic and she said, oh, I was sedated for that. Why did you do that just with local? I said, I didn't read the terms and conditions, that's why. So it felt medieval. And there was two nurses beside me and they were putting in the line here and I was tilted. And then they were like, right, 5 hours now, sit there. So medieval, but amazing treatment. So that was one. And then the other major treatment that I went through over there for the month that I was there, and I had 2 rounds of this, and it's called hyperthermia. So essentially it's an induced fever. And once you get the body to this temperature, it will kill off the Lyme bacteria. And mine was late stage Lyme. So mine had traveled to my nervous system and was affecting my brain. So this was the kind of only procedure that really would hit that and stop the progression of this. So essentially an induced fever, they put you to sleep and they insert a line and they're pumping you with antibiotics while they are heating your body. So they got my body to 41.8 degrees Celsius. So if you're awake for that, like, I'd be dead. So you're asleep for that. And I was out from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. And it's a very intense treatment. My blood pressure kept dropping. They said that thankfully I had age on my side. There's people there that are older and their hearts or their bodies mightn't have been able for it. And then when you come out of that procedure, you have to go through the detox. And when I woke up, I got an awful fright because my whole face had swelled out, like I was swollen everywhere. And I had to go through like these detox symptoms. I had this internal sensation of burning for about 48 hours, vomiting, pain, everything. Oh yeah, and the sweating as well continued and the shakes in my hands. It was like, a movie of somebody doing cold turkey or something, is what I felt like. So I had to do 2 rounds of that. And for the second round, then, like, my mom came over and she was with me. And like, there's nothing like having your mother beside you for things like this. And when she came over, it was, we'll say, I was mid treatment and I went over there and I wasn't able to walk. And I walked out to her when she came to the hospital. So that was a pretty emotional moment. So that just showed how much um, progress I was making in the treatment. And there was loads of other, we'll say, treatments going on there as well. Like I had ozone therapy. They also mixed holistic therapy with like Western medicine. We'll say my consultant, who is like a Western doctor consultant, he was also trained in Chinese medicine and all holistic care. So I loved how they like incorporated both sides of it. They were pumping you with antibiotics IV during the day, and then they were helping you to recover and detox with more natural remedies afterwards. I was there for a month and it was really intensive treatment because you're trying to fit everything into a month. Whereas, like, if this treatment was available in Ireland, like perhaps you'd be doing it for 6 months and your body would be taking breaks. Whereas I had treatment every single day. I had IV antibiotics every single day, plus these major procedures to recover from as well. When it was finished, I felt like I had one foot in the grave. I flew home, and it's even the logistics of it just gives like such an extra element of stress and of you have to really switch into warrior mode. More so even I feel if I had the treatment and the support at home, because it was like I have to go on a flight, I have to do this, then I have to fly from Germany to Dublin, Dublin to Kerry, Kerry to Kilgarvan. It was just bizarre when you think about it. And even when I came home, I was able to walk and my symptoms had improved. I still got no recognition from the Irish system whatsoever. There was nothing. It's like this dead silence. It's like this elephant in the room that we don't know what it is. Like, why can't they acknowledge this, that somebody could have an active infection for years and years and that it's not diagnosed or treated and you're just left there? And the unusual thing about it is my story seems to sound bizarre or eventful, but the ironic thing is I've had hundreds of people message me with the same story after I did the GoFundMe and kind of tried to like be open about the journey. Hundreds of people messaging me with the same version of events of misdiagnosis, being told it's your mental health, being told you're lazy, it's whatever. Do you know what I mean? You're imagining it. Bizarre. And this is still ongoing. The only thing that changed last year was that the HSE have now put forward that post treatment Lyme syndrome is a thing. Whereas prior to that, it was just, oh, it's Lyme disease. You get a bullseye rash after you get the tick and you get antibiotics, and that's it, 2 weeks. Great. What I give to have that and take it for 2 weeks, because people often ask me, oh, I got a tick bite, what do you think I should do? Sometimes I don't know what to say because that tick may not be infected. You might be fine. Your system might be able to manage it, of course. But if it was me, I would prefer to go into the doctor and demand 2 weeks antibiotics and say, just give me these 2 weeks antibiotics, um, as opposed to have to go through what I've gone through and what I continue to go through for the rest of my life, you know? So, yeah, I'm going to take a moment.
You take your time. I don't know where to start because I've been writing notes here the whole way through. I want to go back to when you said warrior mode earlier, because just literally before you said that, I was thinking in my head, I was like, this girl is a warrior. My God.
Thank you.
Like, you were not listened to, not believed, going through literal torment, body and mind. Your body wasn't functioning and not to be listened to. No one was giving you answers. And even when you found the answers, they were telling you were wrong. That's a disgrace.
Yeah.
And to even have come back, knowing what you know now, have found treatment that has improved your life and still crickets, silence,
Yeah.
like that is just disgraceful. That's utterly ridiculous. You have been through hell and back. My God.
Thank you so much.
How is your
But
health
it's nice to
the
hear that
moment?
you understand it. Do you know what I mean? Like that you
I can
understand
empathize, but
health.
I don't think I'll understand what you went
Yeah.
through, because like that's living hell. To
Yeah.
know that your mind and your body were not your own for a time.
Yes.
It's so scary. My God.
It is frightening. And I think as well as that, you'd be encouraged, rest up. You're in so much physical pain, rest up. I'm dealing with a double-edged sword whereby if I rest, my mind can't hack it because my brain is being attacked by this disease, and it's going to heighten the anxiety, the feeling of losing control, because I was noticing that my memory was like that I was repeating what I was saying, and I just felt like I was not sober, basically, is kind of how I would, like, it just felt like I was not sober at all. So it was that double-edged sword of rest up, but then this is affecting me neurologically if I do that. And then, people who suffer from their mental health, what do they do when they're in trouble? They exercise, they move the body, as they say, get out of the mind and into the body. I couldn't do that either. So it was that double-edged sword of just saying, right, survive, survive, survive. And another thing that I find interesting is when you are in like the depths of hell and you're in survival mode, you're not thinking about anything else. You are just hell bent on, I'm going to survive this and go, go, go. And you do that. And I look back and kind of go, how did I do that? But you're in it. Whereas when I came back from treatment, I found it so difficult that, so basically, before I went for treatment, I looked really, really sick. I was grey. I had these black bags under my eyes. Like people told me that I looked like a corpse. So maybe that's why my GoFundMe did so well, because I looked as sick as I felt, I was as
Yeah.
bad as I looked. And then when you come back and you start to look healthier and you're able to walk, so everybody's going, this is a miracle, thank God. And in one breath, you're trying to be really optimistic and thankful and grateful and everything. And then the other breath, you're going, but my life is permanently altered. I can walk. This has saved my life and changed my life. But I'm at a stage where I'm going to deal with pretty intense symptoms going forward. But I suppose I portrayed them as being less than what they were because I was used to them being so bad that being less than that was any bit better. And even after treatment, they told me, please God, we've stopped the progression of the disease. But are 26 years of age and we think you got bitten when you were 8. That's a lot of damage. We don't know if that's, if you can come back from that. And now today, in 2026, I have nerve pain up and down my spine. They think that like my nerves in my spine are irritated or damaged and pain in the back of my skull. I'd have a chronic headache all the time. And my fatigue levels would be like, if I wasn't in this journey and if I was looking outward at somebody with fatigue, I would be saying, oh, their energy levels are always here, a baseline. Whereas mine are, I'm either up in the sky or I'm on the ground. That's the way they go. I deal with that every day. And I find that really hard as like an identity thing. Whereas it's like this responsibility to tell people that the GoFundMe saved my life and this treatment needs to be accepted by the country, because without it, I don't know what would have happened to me. And you're promoting all of this and you really stand by it and embrace it and you're trying to give other people hope. But then at the same time, you feel like there's this silent alarm going off inside you and nobody can hear it, whereby you're like, I am still in so much suffering. And, it's like trying to, I suppose, give reverence to both sides of it. That yes, this was a miracle, but also yes, I am left with a lot of suffering and a lot of damage done. And it is a chronic illness. And please God, I'll continue to get better. But it's been 4 years. Even after the treatment, I had seizures or these fits episodes for 2 years. I get them more infrequently now. I got one a few weeks ago because I had done too much. And like done too much that day was, I had a lovely day out. Somebody else would call it lovely day out. Went for a drive, went for lunch, walked around, was very social, came home, and that happened. So and people kind of say, oh, you have to learn to manage it and you have to learn to see what you can do and what you can't. But some days I can do loads. Some days I could, like right now, I don't teach in a secondary school anymore. I had to leave that job, and I tried to go back a few times and it wasn't suiting because of the like neurological element of it. I was getting seizures more frequently after it. And it's that Irish thing of, oh, the good job, a good job. It's like, well, I have to come home to a fit, so it's not too good if that's what's happening. So now, today, I teach yoga, and I like started that business 2 years ago. And like, it's the greatest gift that came out of this experience because I absolutely love it. It suits me. And I can't believe like how lucky I am where I get to teach yoga. I love it. It's helping me and it helps my body and my mind. And I'm sharing it and I consider it my job and my career. And I can teach my classes in the morning, come home, turn into a granny for a few hours, and then, come back to life again. And it's that unseen that people don't see, I suppose, is what frustrates me nowadays, is that people are very good to understand what I went through. And when they see me now and I'm teaching yoga and I have the fake tan on, so I look healthy, and I'm laughing and I'm full of energy in that moment because I'm embracing it. I will pay for it later, but it's very hard for people to understand what's really going on, the invisible side of it. And I find that really hard to accept or go along with, kind of thing.
A few little things I want to touch on there. First of all, how fantastic. I bitch and moan about Ireland all the time, mainly the weather. But when people really need help as a community, everyone is so good to come together.
Yeah.
And it's just testament to the power of community in this country. And people are so good to help each other out. The other thing I want to say is, you spoke about your journey as a bit of a miracle. I would say you have created your own miracle because you completely advocated for yourself. You pushed, you fought. When I'd say all hope was lost, you could literally look at all the things in front of you and say, how the hell could I possibly fix this? But you did. You kept working. You believed in yourself. You had faith, and you put the plan in place to make things work. And obviously, people had to help you get there. And even the other thing I'll say is you're continuing your miracle, because traditional careers don't fit chronic illness. Like being out, having to go to school, teaching. I was a hairdresser for many years. I can't continue with my career, just as I can't work in the service industry like that. Whereas you are continuing to craft the life that you need so that you can have a good life by finding a job that fits into your schedule. That whereas you can push hard in the morning, but as I said, go home and be a granny for a while to recoup and get back in action. So I think that's the fantastic thing about speaking openly about your journey, because we don't want to be going up to everyone we meet in the street being like, I'm great now, but I'll be shite later. Whereas you can talk and be open, share your journey, and whoever is going to listen and hear about it, at least there's an understanding that can develop. Whereas we don't always want to be looking for sympathy or telling people things aren't good. We do want to be positive. We want to be moving forward. So, and I think for anyone who's going through a similar situation to you, knowing that there's no available information or treatment in this country, there's a lot of people, I imagine, falling through the cracks, because we always hear about tick bites. Like, that is, growing up, you always hear about them. So there must be a lot of people who are experiencing what you're experiencing with no answers. Obviously, they're going to GPs, consultants, and they're not giving them answers either. So you are paving the way to help a lot of people through your own pain. So I have to say, I commend you completely, because it mustn't be easy going back into it, thinking about it. I watched the video on your TikTok. You went through a living hell, and that living hell isn't over. It has improved with the treatment. I know that it has definitely improved your life and everything like that. Is it an option to go back for more treatment? What's your kind of plans to kind of look after your health at the moment?
So basically, the treatment is to stop the progression of Lyme. And the way I see it right now is that I'm left with the damage that was done all those years. So the damage that was done to my nervous system, to my whole everything, So me going back, I feel, for a treatment like that would be to target an infection, whereas they hope that I don't have active infection anymore. That's the hope. But again, that's another element of the country letting us down. I would love to just go away and get my bloods done now tomorrow and see how are they looking at the moment. But they were €1,000 when I did them last. And now they're nearly gone up to 2,000. And on top of that, I'd have to arrange the whole thing myself. It's this big full enough ordeal. And I've helped, thankfully, loads of people to do that and um to get their answers and everything like that. Shockingly enough, there's actually like myself and two others local enough that have gone through literally the same experience, which is shocking in a small rural community. And we've been able to lean on each other for that. But again, it's nobody listening to them and everything. So anyway, back to your question is that what I do now to help my health is to try and rebuild my immune system and to try and look after my nervous system. And I'm constantly trying new holistic treatments. They have really helped. I'm also on like long-term medication to help my sleep, which at the moment I'm trying to taper down on, which has been really difficult the last 4 weeks. It's been complete withdrawals for my sleep. I haven't slept naturally. Like I've been manually put to sleep since 2022. So the idea of not having a medication to help me sleep now is the most terrifying thing. I'd go through all of that again, then have to go through this because your brain is trying to recalibrate, and the withdrawals, the sweating, the jumping out of my sleep, the night terrors, the like rebound nerve pain, because the tablet I'm on, it helps nerve pain but also sleep. Okay. And it's not something that I can be on the dose I'm on long term. So I'm trying to bring my dose way down. And so that's kind of the journey I'm on right now. And also another thing that has really helped, if I could stick to it, is the ketogenic diet, right? But low carb, high fat, high protein kind of thing. I don't know much about it. I just know that whenever I'm on it, it works. And I know that a recent doctor that I came in contact with, who was fantastic, has supported it because he said it was introduced for people with epilepsy to help neurologically. So he said it makes sense that it also helps other neurological diseases, because I have neurological Lyme. Some people, when they get Lyme disease, it affects their joints, their heart, their nervous system, their brain. Okay, so that's what it can attack. And for years, it attacked my joints, and then it went to nervous system and affected the brain. So at the moment, that's what I'm doing. I'm eating a rake of supplements. I'm trying to eat healthy and try to prioritize my rest, even though I find that really difficult. And then, of course, there's my yoga, breath work, meditation, cold water therapy, things like that. They're my lifeline, you know?
You really built up a protocol. I've a similar kind of approach to life now at the minute. From my own journey, medication never did anything for me, so I kind of had to tear the whole thing apart and go again. But the sleep thing, I have serious issues with sleep, so I can really empathize with that. And
Yeah.
especially for me, I got addicted to sleeping tablets at one point where I was knocking back 5 of them a night to sleep. And then obviously, as you said, manually trying to put yourself to sleep, there's nearly an emotional reliance on it too, where you
Yes.
don't believe you'll fall asleep without it.
Mm-hmm.
The waking up with the night terrors. Now mine obviously isn't nerve pain. I didn't go through what you're going through. Mine is just that when I drop off, I jerk awake for every
Yeah,
20
that's
minutes sort
all.
of thing. Yeah, it's torture because you're trying
That's
to heal
torture.
and recover, and we all know that sleep is so important. And then you're nearly getting in your own mind being like, oh, for fuck's sake, I'm not fucking sleeping.
Mhm.
How am I ever going to get better?
Yeah.
Etc. etc. I just did an episode with Tom Coleman, who's a sleep expert, and I took a lot of the stuff that he had from it, like the sad light in the morning, getting out. I'm sure you do all these things yourself, and we can have a chat about it again afterwards. But my sleep has
Absolutely.
definitely improved, and especially
Great.
with breath work. How do you find it incorporating the breath work into your life?
Incredible. I find breath work amazing, especially for people that think, well, I can't meditate. I'm not going to. I also find in my work, like in teaching yoga and meditation, I often find that it's the men that don't like the idea of meditating sometimes. Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. Or else people that are hyperactive, like I always say, I can teach a meditation class, no problem. It is my favorite thing in the world. But if you saw me lying down there and receiving the meditation class, I would be the most fidgety fucker ever. Okay. So I need it more than anybody. That's why I'm so passionate about it. But I do find that when you incorporate the breath work, then like you're getting more of a physical relief. And I also find that it really helps to move that restless, jittery energy out of the body. And I really find it incredible before I go to sleep. And there's another thing that I have as well. It's called an acupressure mat,
Shakti mat, like, yeah.
Shakti mat.
Yeah, yeah.
Life changing, right? So I really find that it's like a shortcut to calming the nervous system. And for sleep, really, like, it's incredible to lie on these bed of nails, and it just helps your nervous system to like drop into that rest and digest state that people find it really hard. It's almost like a shortcut. So if you incorporate that, lie in your acupressure mat, do your breath work, and that's what I find really helpful to help me wind down at night time. Yeah.
Fantastic. We have to get all our tricks in our toolbox to help us as much as possible. And, these are all bandages until eventually the wound underneath kind of heals, like to get to the point. And you have to kind of do it all. Like I find, you could do it one day and next day you're missing it and stuff, but it's consistency really and truly that allows you to get the results. I just want to circle back to, I suppose, the maddening side of it all is the lack of recognition for what you went through and what you have actually proven by going abroad to get treatment. Why do you feel there has been just crickets, silence? Why do you think the people that can obviously make the change to maybe make these treatments become available in Ireland are just not listening?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I often think about it. And my honest answer is I don't know, because it makes no sense. There's been many people trying to push that there will be a change made and that there will be more recognition, but it seems as though there's some higher power over this whole scenario that, well, we don't want to acknowledge it. Some people have said to me, this isn't necessarily my opinion, but people have put forward that if there was a lot more Lyme awareness, that perhaps it might affect tourism, or it might affect the fear of our beautiful country. You don't want it to scaremonger people, because I've had people come to me and go, oh, I won't let my child go into the grass now anymore. What are you on about? Like, I'm in the grass every day. You just have to be aware and mindful and check tube ticks afterwards. But it's not to scaremonger people. I spend most of my time in the middle of nowhere, in the countryside, in nature. It's not to stop people, but yeah, honestly, I don't know how to answer that question because I don't know the answer. And it's as if it's like the question of my life is why? Why is this such a taboo topic when there is science backing it? It's not this impossible thing to grasp. It's a bacteria. It's transmitted from the bite of a tick. Not all ticks have the infection, but between 5 and 15% of them do, apparently. And if it's left untreated, it will cause havoc in your body. And basically what the tick does is, when it latches onto you, all the remnants of its stomach then go into your body, into your bloodstream, whatever. They also do a really good job at hiding. It's like a spirochete bacteria. So anyway, there's so much science to it. It's very straightforward when you look at the science of it, that it makes no sense to me as to why this is such a taboo subject, or airy-fairy, or that it's clinical or symptom-based. It's not. It's in the blood. And then what annoyed me about the test that I got done in Germany in the lab. So when I brought those tests to GPs in Ireland, they didn't really recognize them. They were going, no, they're not. And then I realized and found out that Ireland used that exact lab for COVID during the lockdown, and that they were seen as being accurate. But you won't take my diagnosis. Do you know? So
Like,
it's just that shit, the whole thing. All I can do is laugh about it now because, it's just so crazy, and I feel I don't like putting so much energy into being angry about it. It's more so I love to talk about it to help other people to try and get a backbone and fight for themselves, basically.
I completely, because it must be a rage that could consume you, because it's purely maddening. I'm only hearing your story and I'm mad about it. Like, I'm like, this is absolutely ridiculous. You're the one that had to live your life going through it to the point of almost no return, and ridiculous that it's just not being recognized. And the thing that always annoys me about this country so much is there's other countries with the blueprint of how to achieve and fix certain issues, and we for some reason just can't use the experience of other countries or other people who've already done it. We scoff and we, woo woo and don't recognize. And I said, even more frustrating that lab was good enough when we needed it for COVID, but when you come with your results, you're scoffed at. That's
Exactly.
utterly ridiculous.
And
One
even
thing,
the difference between, even the
no, go
difference
on.
between like the clinic I went to in Germany for the treatment and the like response we got at home. When I went over there and I was telling my consultant, oh yeah, I was having these fits every night, 8 o'clock every night they'd come on. And he was like, how many times you ring ambulance? And we were like, none. And to him, that was absolutely insane. But we were that stranded that it just felt like these barbaric times where my husband was with me and we just, all right, right, here we go, another seizure. What do you need? We'll wait for it to pass. Like, he was outstanding, and we just went into complete warrior mode to get through it. But it's when you tell your story to another country and a consultant, a very educated man, and he's looking at you like you're mad, and then you're saying, but this is how we're treated. Psychologically, that does something to you. And I find that really hard to deal with now. So I'm at the moment trying to learn to pace myself and to stop. So even though I could be in extreme agony, there's a part of me that will go, you're fine out, come on. And that's probably a mix of Irish culture, but also like not being listened to for so many years and being told you're fine out, that now I have like no real, like I've no awareness of my limits. So I'm trying to rebuild that.
Completely, because I know you mentioned in the video I watched, the Tough Woman Act, and of course that has its place. That has place. You need it to get through what you went through, and like that mask of strength that we put on can pull us through the really really hard times. But I know you also mentioned in the video, there's a time and a place for it. So how did you learn, or are you still learning when to take it off, when to put it on? How's that going for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I think that's my greatest challenge, to be honest. I think it's like learning to surrender and learning to pace yourself. I find that near impossible. Whereas if I have really bad symptoms, if I've a seizure or migraine or whatever, when I'm in that, I'm almost more comfortable being in that tearing mode of I'm all right, it'll pass. Whereas when I'm in the middle ground of I'm not that sick, but I know that I have to pace myself right now because otherwise it'll get worse. I find that the hardest thing in the world to do is to stop and go, I need to rest, because I'm just consumed with guilt. And I'm slowly, ever so slowly, learning to say no and to not give an explanation and to not give an excuse. And it's funny because everybody around me is encouraging me to do it. You know, my own mother, who's a workhorse, she's the one telling me, will you rest up? But it's just something like, I don't know, it's just something in your bones or that to keep going. And I think it's so much braver and so much harder to stop and rest than it is to keep tearing on for everybody.
Yeah, because obviously when you're that way inclined, it's your identity, it's who you are, it's what you do, and then you know yourself you shouldn't be doing it. So obviously, as you said, the guilt comes in and the frustration, and everyone around you is telling you to stop when they won't stop themselves if you were to say the same thing to them. But it is a form of torture to be not able to progress and do the things you want, but then also, I suppose, having to be selfish is the wrong word, but having to have the self-awareness to be like, as you said, stop giving people an excuse as to why you can't do it, because you don't need an excuse. It's just that I can't do it. I don't have to keep making excuses, because that's more energy you're putting into a situation when really the baseline is just like, I can't do this today, so I need to take some time for myself. All the stuff you've shared today, my God, you have been through some journey. I know you were saying earlier there was a poem that you wanted to share.
Yes, just to sum up, I've done enough raving now, but this will actually sum up how I just think where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so the treatment stopped the progression. It saved my life. It gave me a second chance. Without it, my reality would be unimaginable. And yet, life is still altered. Every day, a negotiation with the body. Energy counted like coins on a table. I live a double life, outwardly laughing, having the crack, forcing joy into the spaces that pain tries to fill. But when I go home, I pay the hidden cost. That identity is exhausting. But what choice do I have? I want to celebrate this life, even with this condition breathing down my neck. Through it all, I have not been alone. My husband, the unsung hero, he keeps the candles alight. He hands me my armour, reminds me of the fight in my bones. He brings solace even when winter darkens our door. My mother, the anchor, helps me stand and fight. My sister, my bestest friend, walks beside me through the chaos with smiles and laughter that echoes through the halls. All of the people in my life, their love and their care, their fun have made the impossible so bearable. I come from a line of caring women, women who stood all day, carried everything, fed everyone before themselves. My grandmother, strong as an ox. My mother, the engine of the house, solid as stone. In Ireland, that's sacred. The woman who keeps the home, the woman who doesn't sit down, the woman who gets on with it. And I'm the first woman in my line whose body has said no, no to being everything to everyone all at once. Chronic illness has forced me to ask, who am I if I can't perform womanhood the way it was modelled before me? But maybe I'm not breaking the line, maybe I'm reshaping it. They showed strength through endurance. I'm learning strength through acceptance, learning that joy and suffering can sit in the same breath. Some days my body burned like a house on fire, ravaged every beam, every stone, every corner of me. I ran to put it out, hurting myself in the process. And when the blaze ceased, when the needles were ripped from my arms and pills swallowed like holy water, I was left with a room. But I'm rebuilding it despite the damage the blaze left behind. Slowly, brick by brick, hand by hand, the smell of smoke lingers, yes, a reminder of the fight, the grief, the hidden toll. But it also reminds me of what I survived, of what didn't take me. I lean into life whenever I can. I've stepped off the hamster wheel some bit. I revel in the chaos and the crack. A crisp pint of Coors with friends, joy leaping out of my chest, music rattling in my bones, laughter bouncing off the walls, elbow nudges, stories retold and exaggerated, mockery sharp with love, eyes thrown to heaven. This is what I try to carry with me, the riot of life, fight, song and love. After walking through darkness, this joy is earned. And whenever an opportunity for the crack and celebration of life appears, I lean into it and tell the rest of it to feck off for a while. The end.
That was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, because wow, there were so many things I was trying to jot down here so I could circle back to. There's some beautiful words in there, really, really.
Thank you so much.
You speak about the joy filling the space of pain, like that's powerful, powerful wording. And reshaping the line. Wow, you have a talent with words. I'll give it to you.
Oh, thank you.
That poem absolutely sums up everything that you've spoken about today, and really goes into the absolute depths of what chronic illness enforces on us, you know. And as you said, the change in the lineage and the women that came before you, it really, really rocks our identities to the core. And we sometimes have to build up a new identity, and it seems like that's what you're doing, but still with the same strength of the past. So I have to say you're an absolutely amazing woman.
Thank you so much.
Fair play to you, like that.
Thank you. Well, you know yourself, even the whole identity thing, like you have to live that every day too, do you know? And it's so hard. It's like the lineage of Irish women and the sacredness of that, and being on your feet and keeping the house good. And then for the men, it's that sense, I'm presuming that sense of providing, of being the tough man of everything. And then chronic illness coming along, and we're in our early 30s, and it's like, no, reshape the whole thing. You can't do that. You
kind
know,
of have to reshape the mold. Like my father would be a very strong Irish man, worker, like break his back working every day, strong in the mind, strong in the body. Whereas we have to find a very different strength. Whereas my body might not be as strong as his, I can still learn the lessons of the strength of his mind and bring them into my own. So definitely it's using the people that we have around us to teach us and to garner a new type of strength, whereas it might not be a mirror effect of it, but it's still strong and it's still powerful. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. We've gone through so much today. It's been a fantastic episode. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
To sum it up, it's that like joy and suffering can be said in the same breath, and that I think people that don't have a chronic illness don't realize that. They think if you're sick, you're miserable, and if you're happy, you're fine out. And for the likes of us, we have to learn to be a blend of all of that. And we have no choice but to go, this is great crack. I'm having a laugh. Yes, I'm in pain, but this is it. And I just want to open people's eyes to that. Is just because you see me laughing, having the crack, last one on the dance floor, I will pay for it much longer than you, but I will be there. Doesn't mean that I'm fine out the rest of the days. And that goes for everybody with chronic illness. It's just to open their eyes to, like, it's a double life, Hannah Montana lifestyle. And yeah, that's kind of it really. And that people are so much greater than what you expect. And people have so much space in them to support you. That's been the greatest teaching for me, is as cheesy as it sounds, to be very loved and very cared for. And that kind of shocks me on the regular, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, because when you strip everything back, you strip all the materials, everything back, what do we have but each other? And when you know there's people around you to protect you and support you and help you along your journey, it's eye-opening. Chronic illness shows us sides to ourselves and those around us that we probably never would have seen otherwise. And it can bring that level of closeness that, maybe we would have lost if we'd gone down a different path. So I do have to say, I do honour and thank the journey I myself have gone on, because it has made me and my family so much closer. And you have to see the beauty on it, because it didn't happen any other way. It can't happen any other way. And we have responded as we had to respond, and we will take the wins from it and take the positives from it. So yeah, thank you so much for
That's
sharing that.
beautiful. Yeah, that is so beautiful. And it's so true. It's so true. Even though this was a bizarre path, and sometimes people would say to me, "Oh, it's such a pity it happened," and all that. And I'm saying, No. Number one, if it didn't happen, I'd be standing up the top of the classroom doing Irish verbs. No thanks. Whereas I'm actually teaching yoga in a beautiful hotel resort, and I love it. And it's made me and the people around me who we are, and our relationship so much stronger. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. We find our purpose in the pain, and you absolutely have found it. One thing that I'd love to hear your perspective on is, what does happiness mean to you?
Happiness to me is just enjoying the simple things in life, stripping it all back and just trying to get the crack and enjoyment out of everyday simple life. If that's music, having a pint with your friend, going for a walk along the sea, chatting to your family about memories or whatever. It's just strip it all back. It's just happiness is taking joy in all the simple moments, really.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Karin, it's been my pleasure to speak to you today. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much for having me and for being so kind and everything and understanding.
My pleasure.
And I tip my hat to you as well with your journey. So thank you for sharing it and sharing all of these stories.
What a lady. Like, something that really stood out so strongly for me is that recovery isn't always the kind of neat ending that it seems with the word. Sometimes it's literally learning to live with the scars, the PTSD, all the symptoms that can possibly remain. Karin, through her own pure will to survive, is able to find joy, purpose, and meaning in the middle of it all. Again, what a lady. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there are any conditions or topics you'd like to broach on the pod, because I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for listening. And I'll be back next week with a very inspiring conversation with Jack Brennan with a double hip replacement at 23. I'll see you next week.